What it do? Bedtime crew. Hey man, listen, today I am bringing back a classic tradition on this channel, predicting every pay-per-view of the year to come, which is 2025. We're going to be going from January through to December, covering the classic locations we get every year, some double up pay-per-views, some bold predictions for the year. I feel like I'm usually very accurate with these. I feel like my 2023 one, I hit the nail on the head with pretty much every fight. Even if I don't get the exact pay-per-view or the exact date right, I'm gonna get the fight. Like, this fight will happen. I guarantee that. So let's get into this. January, we already know what it is. We got UFC 311. Islam Makhachev, he's taking on Arman Sakarian. That's a big fight. You know, we also got Umnar versus Merab. Shout out to Merab for taking that fight, because I was going to have him penciled in for like March or fucking May fighting Petr Yan in a rematch, but he actually took the Umnar fight. So now we get a banger card to start off the year. We've got Islam versus Arman. We've got Merab versus Umar, Yuri versus Jamal Hill. The GOAT Rainier Dorita will be on the card as well. So very excited with how the UFC is starting things off with 311. Let's move on. Just announced UFC 312. Here's the fucking thing about this fight, you guys. I'm fighting fucking Dricus, dude. We got the main event of Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland 2. Weili Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez. That's right. Probably JDM versus Usman or Sean Brady. Hopefully. Fuck, man. If they don't give us JDM, this is a rough one. But those are the first two confirmed for the year of 2025. Good start. And the next one will be UFC 313, which will happen in March in Las Vegas. And because it's March, that rules out most of the fighters that have to do Ramadan. And they usually like to make a pretty big card for March. So I'm going to be bold here. I'm going to say that for March, we get Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. Now, when you hear March, I think we're going to get this fight in March, dude. Because I thought it was going to be Chimaev versus du Plessis in March, because Dana said he wants Chimaev to fight for the belt in America. But now that I think about it, straight after 309, both of these guys said they're in negotiations. They're going to make this fight happen. Dana White has said this fight's going to happen. I believe him. I know that's a crazy fucking thing to do in 2024, is to believe Dana White, but I do believe him. And I think that UFC 313 in March, we're going to get a stacked pay-per-view for this Jones-Aspinall fight. This is the main event. Co-main event's probably going to be Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Featured fight's probably going to be Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. And yeah, dude, I think this is going to be a sick card in Vegas to get the year off with a bang. I can definitely see them doing like a never mind, we've already had the press conference for 311. I was going to say we'll get the press conference that we got last year with all three headliners against each other, but it's okay, dude. I do think 313, we're going to get Jones versus Aspinall. I think July is just such a long way. I see people making this for International Fight Week. Aspinall's going to be out for 1 year after a fight that lasted a minute. I just think that's ridiculous. So let's make this fight for 313 in March. Moving on, I'm going to say in April. We could get two cards in March. I don't know if this Miami card that they're talking about is going to be in March or April. I'm just going to say it's going to be in April. UFC 314 Miami in April. I think we're going to get Ilia Topuria defending his belt against Alexander Volkanovski. I don't know why people are asking me to talk about this guy, saying he's fighting Charles Oliveira at 155 in Miami. Are you guys new to this? Before he fought Volk, he said, right after he beat Volk, he's like, I'm not giving Max a title shot. I'm not giving Ortega a title shot. Not giving Yair a title shot. Not giving Evloev a title shot. He literally called out Conor McGregor and said that's going to be his next fight. So I don't know why people fucking believe this guy, that he's like, yeah, dude, I'm retiring from 145 with 2 wins. Yeah, dude. He's not leaving 145. It's going to be him versus Volk. They're going to get this shit out of the way so we can get some exciting new matchups at featherweight. And maybe at lightweight later in the year. I feel like they're going to try and eventually get him and Islam to fight each other, but I don't think that's going to happen straight away. So I'm going to say we get Topuria versus Volk 2 in Miami, and it's a big card. Obviously, the co-main event for that card needs to be Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan, 5-rounder. It has to be a 5-rounder. Give it to me. Inject it in my veins. That's what I need. 314 in Miami. Topuria versus Volk. Yan versus O'Malley 2. Throw fucking George Masvidal on there as well. I don't give a fuck, dude. Throw Carlos Prates on there versus Masvidal. Let's do it, bro. All right. Moving on. UFC 315. I believe this card in May is going to take place in Brazil. Maybe that's wishful thinking. And I think for a May pay-per-view in Brazil, chama. Muito bom. Muito obrigado. Chama. I think we're going to get Pereira versus Ankalaev in April or May. I'm going to say in May because of that Miami card. I don't really see them taking Ankalaev and Pereira there. I think Brazil makes way more sense. And obviously, Ankalaev has to go through Ramadan, so we can't book that fight for March. I thought they were going to put it in Australia, low-key. I was going to be like, yo, shit, dude. But now that we have to wait for after Ramadan, let's put this in May. In Brazil, home turf for Pereira. That kind of sweetens the deal for him a little bit. Makes this fight a little bit more favorable towards him. But yeah, dude, you can put so many people on this card. Like, you can put Pantoja as the co-main event against Kai Kara France or Royval, whatever. So then you don't have to build this pay-per-view on Pantoja. And the rest of the card can literally be nobodies. If it's Pereira versus Ankalaev and Pantoja versus somebody good, we're going to be interested in that. You throw Jose Aldo on there. You got yourself a pay-per-view in Brazil. I think this is a very real possibility. May 2025, Pereira versus Ankalaev. I think Pereira still is going to be decently active in 2025, but I feel like he's going to slow down a little bit. And I'm not going to give my prediction for this fight, but I will say that the outcome of this fight will be brought up in a later pay-per-view. Okay, dude? So 3:15 in Brazil, we've got Pereira versus Ankalaev. And for the middle of the year, June, before we go July International Fight Week and the end of the year with MSG Abu Dhabi, I'm going to say that for June 2025, the UFC is going to go to Chicago. Okay, dude? And there's a certain man that reps O-Block heavily. There's a certain man that reps Chicago. All right? Bilal Muhammad, UFC 316, says I just whooped your ass. He's going to take out Shavkat Rakhmonov. Bro, I'm going to beat Shavkat in the striking, in the grappling, in the wrestling, bro. Literally, bro. Like, bro, Shavkat sucks. Bro, he literally sucks, bro. He's not from O-Block, bro. I think you could build a banger pay-per-view card in Chicago. I hope that the UFC does this. They've had these pay-per-views in June in Chicago before. Obviously, shout out to the GOAT, UFC 225. One of the best pay-per-views I've ever watched. Throw Curtis Blades versus Sergey Spivak or Curtis Blades versus Cyril Gahn on here. You know, you've got yourself a great pay-per-view here. Maybe if Juliana Pena somehow beats Kayla Harrison, put her as the co-main event. I think you could really do something with a pay-per-view headlined by Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov after he just beat Ian Machado Gary at UFC 310. A lot of fights you can put on this. My personal opinion for the co-main event, I don't really have one. I would say, yeah, I don't really know, dude. Maybe Whitaker versus Strickland. Maybe Whitaker comes back. Strickland's lost a decision to Dricus du Plessis. You make that the co-main event. People would get behind that. I'm going to say that for June, we do Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. So think about it like this. The first half of the year. All right, dude. Arman versus Islam. Okay. Dricus du Plessis versus Sean. Oh, mate, I didn't disappear, bro. I totally didn't disappear. Dricus versus Sean. Jones versus Aspinall. Topuria versus Volk 2. Pereira versus Big Ank. And Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's a great first half of the year. I wouldn't be mad at that, dude. You know, I would take some of these Apex main events. The first fucking fight of 2025, by the way, the first main event is a fucking WMMA Apex main event. You can't make this up. So I'm hoping that we get pay-per-views this good. All right. And now we get to a big landmark in the UFC calendar. July, Las Vegas, International Fight Week. I just said before that I think that Dricus du Plessis is going to beat Sean Strickland. And I don't know if I'm the only one that remembers this, but Dana White literally said we're going to get Chimaev in America for the title fight. We want to do him fighting for the belt in America. We don't want him to just constantly be in Abu Dhabi. So I think that Dana White's relations with, you know, the El Presidente, UFC 317, Las Vegas International Fight Week, Chimaev du Plessis. Please, bro. Please, dude. Maybe this is just me wishful thinking, but I could definitely see this happening. Imagine an International Fight Week card headlined by du Plessis or Strickland versus Chimaev. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Like, that would be cool. Either way, whoever wins the main event of 312, July, du Plessis versus Chimaev, co-main event, Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. 1 million pay-per-views done. You're fucking welcome, Dana White. Main event, du Plessis Chimaev, co-main event, Holloway Oliveira. Stack the rest of the card. Put whatever else you want on it. Peyton Talbot versus Piotr Jan, whatever the fuck, I don't know, dude. But yeah, that's my co-main event and main event for UFC 317 in International Fight Week in Las Vegas. Now, dude, I'm just going to preface this because I know how you guys are, all right? And I know how, so I'm not going to say you guys. I don't want to diss my fans. The random fuckers that just somehow always remember. They'll come back 3 years later. This aged well. What a bad prediction that was. 3 years later. Fuck you. Okay? The end of the year, I'm having to not only predict realistic headliners of a pay-per-view, but also predict fights that haven't happened yet in this hypothetical fucking timeline. So forgive me if August through December is not 100% accurate. I feel pretty good on January through July. I feel like I've hit the nail on the head with all of those, okay? August, fuck it, dude. Louisiana, one last ride. Dude, you know what it is? It is what it is, dude. Louisiana, UFC 318. Main event is Dustin Poirier versus Alexander Volkanovski. Coming off a loss to Poirier, moves up to 155. Unk battle right here. Dustin Poirier's retirement. He said he wants 2 more fights. He wants to retire in Louisiana. He said he's willing to fight before then to like stay active, and then if the UFC can sort out a date in Louisiana, that will be where he retires. I can see the Dana White being down for that, and I think this will be a badass card if you put great fights on the co-main event. Like if you put Moicano versus Pimblett on this card, as well as the main event of just Volk versus Poirier, 5 rounds, interim BMF belt, whatever you want to do with it, man. I think this is a sick fight. I do think that Poirier versus Gaethje 3 will happen at some point this year. I don't know if that'll be his retirement fight. Like, unless maybe they make a fight night, but they won't, dude. That's what I'm saying. So it has to be basically Poirier fights on one pay-per-view and then headlines another one for his retirement. They're not giving bro another title shot. You can literally make this if he beats or loses to Gaethje. It really doesn't matter. So let's do Poirier versus Volk. This is a fan-friendly matchup. This is going to headline a pay-per-view. Like I said, if you stack the undercard, you can get away with this. And I do feel like the UFC constantly has these pay-per-views after banger ones where it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is like a filler pay-per-view. So your options are Poirier versus Volk or Shevchenko versus Fiorot. I know what I'd rather see headline UFC 318 in August. Let's go Louisiana. Let's do Poirier versus Volk. That's a great matchup, all right? Now, UFC 319, UFC September, that's like Noche time, okay? I don't think Noche is going to be a pay-per-view again. I think that Noche is going to be a fight night in Mexico. I think that's going to be like, I don't know. I think that's going to be headlined by Brandon Moreno. I'll say that. I think it's going to be headlined by Brandon Moreno, that Noche card around September, or Alexa Grasso. God, imagine they just give her another fucking title shot. Like, bro. But I don't think Noche is going to be a pay-per-view. That's what I'm going to say. And I think that after Topuria beats Volkanovski, there's only one fight left that we really want to see before he moves up. And I think let's go to Spain. Hopefully by fucking September, the UFC can figure out how to go to Spain. Right? Let's hope that can happen. And I'm going to say UFC goes to Spain in September, around the same time as the Noche Fight Night card, and we get Topuria versus Lopez or Evloev, because I think those two should fight each other and the winner should get a title shot. So when you go to Spain, it's either Topuria versus Lopez or Topuria versus Evloev as the main event. The rest of the card really doesn't matter. Like with a big fight like this, people are going to be interested in it. They're going to want to see it. You know the fans are going to show up to see Topuria. I think he beats either of those guys anyway, so it's not like you're putting him with someone he's going to fucking lose to. It would be hilarious. I will say that. It would be fucking hilarious if Evloev beats Lopez and we get Topuria versus Evloev in September in Spain, and Evloev just smudges this guy and wins by robbery decision. That's like my dream moment of UFC Spain. It's like Evloev just ragdolls Topuria in round 1, gasses out, somehow wins a decision. That would be the dream. But realistically, I think we're going to get Topuria versus Lopez in September in Spain. I think it's going to be a huge deal in a stadium type shit. All right, dude. Now, end of the year. I'm going to say there's 2 pay-per-views in October. I'm just going to copy what the UFC did this year. All right. First October pay-per-view early in the year. We're going to go to Salt Lake City. And this is where one of my predictions for the fight I made earlier comes back. We get a rematch. All right. Salt Lake City, October. Big Ank, after beating Pereira in Brazil, comes back in Salt Lake City and defends his belt in a rematch against Alex Pereira. The rivalry continues. Pereira loses by decision or maybe like a TKO via ground and pound to Ankalaev. He wants a quick comeback. They book the rematch for October in Salt Lake City at Elevation, which I think does benefit Alex Pereira to potentially win the belt back and we get a trilogy. It would be really fucking cool, dude. And I definitely think that Pereira win or lose his first fight of the year, will probably come back to Salt Lake City. He seems to fight there pretty much every year. So I'm going to say they fight in May in Brazil. Ankalaev manages to win. It's a big deal. It's like a Glover Show, Jamal Hill type upset. Crowd just fucking leaves. Pantoja's in the guys, don't leave it, guys. They're going to do a rematch, guys. And then October in Salt Lake City, we get Pereira versus Ankalaev. Because we're not going to fucking Abu Dhabi with this, dude. Fuck that. You don't get to go to fucking Abu Dhabi as soon as you win a belt. So let's do Salt Lake City, Pereira versus Ankalaev 2, the rematch, UFC 320, okay? Now, UFC 321, Abu Dhabi. This is a big deal, man. This is a big fucking deal, bro, all right? I've talked about Du Plessis-Chimaev. I think Chimaev wins that fight. And I think if he wins that fight, he's going to be headlining Abu Dhabi. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Chimaev, if he wins that belt, brother, they are building a fucking supercard in Abu Dhabi in October, headlined by Chimaev. You could put literally whoever else you want on the card. They're going to be the co-main event to Chimaev. All right, dude? And I'm just going to say the UFC is going to pull some Mickey Mouse bullshit. The UFC is going to pull some Mickey Mouse bullshit. And we're going to get Chimaev versus Adesanya. I think Adesanya is going to manage to beat Nasruddin Imavov, and the UFC is going to be ready to fucking go with the announcement of Chimaev Adesanya as soon as he beats Duplessis. Bro, can you not see the UFC doing this? Can you not see the UFC Mickey Mousing Adesanya into a title shot? I can see it. They want this fight. This is a big fucking fight. They're not going to waste this on like a co-main event. This is like the headliner of pay-per-view. I can definitely see the UFC doing this. I think a good co-main event would be Umar versus the winner of Piotr Jan O'Malley 2. I think that's pretty reasonable. If Sarukian somehow beats Oliveira for the belt, Makhachev for the belt, which I don't think is going to happen now. Maybe it's him versus Oliveira, but yeah, dude, I'm going to say that we get Chimaev versus Adesanya or Chimaev versus Strickland. That's another decent prediction. I'm going to say Abu Dhabi's headlined by Chimaev versus someone not Du Plessis in a rematch for the belt. I think he's just going to finish him in round 1, and we're going to get Chimaev versus Adesanya or Strickland. That's what I think, dude, all right? Now we get to MSG, okay, bro? I literally don't even remember who's fucking on this. Let me just, oh yeah, I remember, okay? Remember before, this is where you have to use your critical thinking, okay? International Fight Week, what was my co-main event? Wrong. If you didn't say Holloway Oliveira for the BMF belt, you were fucking wrong, okay, dude? I predicted that in July, we will get Du Plessis versus Chimaev for the belt, and the co-main event will be a Holloway versus Oliveira for the BMF belt. Maybe a controversial opinion, I think Max Holloway wins that. And I think UFC 322, Madison Square Garden, we get Makhachev versus Holloway for the UFC lightweight title. Maybe the BMF belt's on the line as well. Obviously, if Oliveira wins that fight, it's as equally likely to happen of Makhachev versus Oliveira 2. Whatever happens with that BMF fight, I think we're going to get Holloway Oliveira, and I think the winner is going to get a huge BMF versus UFC champion title fight with Islam Makhachev, especially if Belal Muhammad beats Shavkat Rakhmonov. If Shavkat manages to beat Belal, which I don't think is going to happen, you know the UFC wants Islam versus Shavkat. But for me, I don't think Shavkat's going to beat Belal Muhammad. I think it's going to be like a Merab Aljo type of situation where we all feel like Islam could be double champ, but he's too nice. He's not going to take the belt off Belal, so instead he's going to keep defending his lightweight title. And I think Max Holloway or Charles Oliveira in a rematch at MSG would be a huge fight. In terms of the co-main event for that, I think Aspinall defending his heavyweight title, whether he beats Jones or he loses to Jones and Jones retires and he wins the vacant belt, Aspinall versus Volkov will probably be the co-main event of this card. So for me, MSG, my prediction is Makhachev versus Holloway, Aspinall versus Volkov for the heavyweight title, which is not going above these two, so don't even comment. Look, actually, the higher weight class goes above. Yeah, dude. I'm sure you want to see Aspinall versus Volkov more than you want to see Makhachev versus Holloway. You fucking goober. Okay, dude? So that's going to be the co-main event of my MSG card. And in December, this is probably my favorite fight of the year, bro. I actually can't wait to make this. I'm like rubbing my hands together like a fly right now. I think you know what it is, dude. Like I said, man, if Belal Muhammad loses to Shavkat, scratch half of this and be ready for Shavkat versus Islam Makhachev for the belt in November or December. But I think Belal Muhammad is going to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov early in the year. I don't think Ian Gary's going to get a title shot for beating like He just said recently he's not even going to fight Leon Edwards in March. So Ian Gary's probably going to get some sort of easy win, not necessarily get a title shot, in my opinion. I think that the man that's going to be number one contender by the end of the year and get a fight in Vegas in December, UFC 323. Listen, kid, let me tell you about Jack Della Maddalena. Boys, this is the end game of 2025, bro. 2025 December, Bilal versus JDM for the UFC welterweight title in Las Vegas. My God, man. Put whatever you want as the co-main event. I really don't care, dude. UFC 323 in Las Vegas, headlined by Bilal Muhammad versus my GOAT, Jack Della Maddalena. JDM will be winning the belt in this fight via KO. Unfortunately, the Bilal storyline on the channel is going to have to end, and the JDM storyline is going to have to begin. That's just what it is, dude. So my predictions for 2025, I think that we're going to see Jones versus Aspinall in March. I think we're going to see Topuria versus Volkanovski 2 in April. I think we're going to see Pereira versus Ankalaev in May. Bilal versus Shavkat in June. Duplessis versus Chimaev in International Fight Week. I think we're going to see Holloway versus Oliveira. Dustin Poirier is going to retire headlining a pay-per-view against Alexander Volkanovski or maybe against Justin Gaethje. I think we're going to get Topuria in Spain against Lopez or Evloev. I think Pereira and Ankalaev are going to have 2 fights this year. And we're going to get Chimaev versus Adesanya or Strickland. And we're going to get Makhachev defending his lightweight title against Holloway or Oliveira. And headlining the final pay-per-view will be this masterful, amazing, beautiful, exciting fight. I mean, I'm getting butterflies looking at this fight, dude. So these are my predictions for 2025's pay-per-views. Let me know down below, though, guys. What do you think is going to happen in 2025? How accurate do you think these predictions are? And when you are watching this video in December 2025, make sure to comment "This age like milk." That will really make me have a good day. So make sure you do that, okay, guys? Yeah, have a good day. Subscribe to the channel. Go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Bedtime MMA. I will see you guys in the next video, man. Goodbye.